crazy ass comic books. Hey everybody, Brian here. Thanks for coming back to the channel. That's right. Today's episode is all about crazy ass comic books, and I have two. One from Marvel, one from DC that I'm going to talk about today. We're going to look at two distinctly different stories and how this has just got to be some of the craziest comic book shit I've ever seen in my life. All right, I'm going to start this off with the older of the two. The first comic we're going to talk about today is Action Comics number 378 from July 1969, where Superman fights Satan. What? Yes, you heard me correctly. Satan? What? Are you kidding? Did he win? No. Well, sort of. Here's how it goes down. Superman's just going about his normal business, and this is why I actually like Superman, and they don't show a lot more of this stuff. Superman at the beginning of the book is actually going around and doing what he normally does. He's building a children's hospital. He's devoting his time to actually work on some sort of community project. He's digging out, and actually starting to put together the foundations for what will be a children's hospital in Metropolis. He then afterwards goes up into space, and he's actually building and helped build the first International Space Station, which is kind of progressive back in 1969 if you really think about it. But while he's doing it and he spins the station and puts this thing sort of in motion, it completely just disintegrates in front of his eyes, and he doesn't know what happens, and he looks, and there's Satan in space. What? He's got the trident, he's got the pointy horns, he's actually dressed out in a tux in space and talking to Superman using telepathy, and says, you know who I am, and he creates his name out of all the wreckage from the space station, and, basically he wants Superman to work for him. And so he's like, man, get the hell out of here, man, I'm Superman, bitch, I'll knock you the fuck out. So he tries to basically fight Satan, and Satan's basically almost getting the upper hand on him. Superman's kind of scared. He's like, man, what the hell is going on? So he goes back to the Fortress of Solitude to try to work out what's going on, and he knows Satan's probably going to follow him. Satan, of course, does show up. He burns his way up into the Fortress of Solitude with his trident, and he pretty much gets Superman to agree to work with him, to become his apprentice. And this is where he reveals his master plan, where suddenly he, says that, I don't want you to just take over the Earth. The Earth is a good place to start, but we're going to basically, take over the Earth, and I'm going to spread evil all the way across the galaxy. And you know why you're going to help me? Because you, Superman, don't lie. So if I know that you're gonna basically say to me now that you're gonna do this, you're telling the truth, because Superman doesn't lie. Of course, it's revealed that this isn't actually Superman. It's a robot duplicate. And now that Superman knows exactly what's going on, he does show up. He basically shows up, he confronts Satan, and then you find out that actually it wasn't Satan at all. And he was actually he actually finds out that this person's name is Rolnock. Rolnock is actually a traveler through space. He's a wanderer. He doesn't really have any roots anywhere. And he comes to Krypton before it's destroyed and finds Jor-El's testing a rocket, and he sort of helps him sort of perfect the rocket. Him and Jor-El become friends, so much so that when they have the birth of their son, Cal, of course, what happens is that Rolnock becomes his godfather. Jor-El liked him that much that he becomes his godfather. So he winds up leaving Krypton and returning only to see it being destroyed, and the rocket that he helped Jor-El sort of perfect taking off and leaving. After a long travel, he's finally gotten himself to Earth, and he is stopped by one of Superman's arch nemesis, the Marauder. And the Marauder basically brainwashes him, hypnotizing him to thinking that he is Satan to do his bidding for him, and pisses off back into the outer space. He basically takes off so Superman, no one can sort of finger him in this crime, but the guy does explain to, Superman who he is. And the book ends with basically Superman so proud to have somebody who maybe knew his parents beforehand. He's showing him around the Fortress of Solitude, and he's, showing him, the statues of Jor-El and his mother, and basically he's now really happy to have like these roots put down again. So once again, Crazy ass comics. You gotta be kidding me. Back in 1969, Superman winds up fighting Satan only to discover that he isn't in fact Satan. He's his godfather. Nice twist, DC. Overall, I thought the book was, it was written back in the day. I actually do like the good-natured Superman who basically talks a lot of smack as well. Even when he thought he was Satan, he was like, hey, you know what? Even if you are, you think I'm going to work for you? They're going to need a whole lot of snow back where you come from, man, because I ain't working for you for shit. Then this was a just an unwavering, unlying, and a guy who could probably dismantle you and take you to pieces, but he doesn't, because Superman, for all his power, is just a great, not just a human, but he's just a great person. And that's why I really love Superman as a character. I hope you guys do too. Next, it's coming. Avengers 200. I was a kid back in the day when that came out, and I was really looking forward to it, because comics don't get that high. You get to issue 200, and it's a monumental cover. I mean, look at that. It's got that beautiful George Perez artwork going on it. It is a marvelous, marvelous book. Cover-wise. The story itself is an absolute shocker. And it's sort of a shame, too, because, George Perez was really hitting his strides, with the Avengers. And as a 200th issue, he actually does do some great artwork. Bob Layton does the inking in this. So some of the art in the book is actually very good. The art's not the issue. The issue is the story. And I gotta tell you, it's possibly one of the worst I've ever read. One of the worst. A few issues earlier, for some unknown reason, Miss Marvel becomes pregnant, and she doesn't know how, why. She's like, I don't know what's going on. And she has her baby, and the baby begins to grow at an accelerated rate. A lot of things start to go wrong with the space-time continuum. Suddenly you've got, German aircraft flying in. You've got dinosaurs. Long story short, what happened was, Ms. Marvel was actually taken, unbeknownst to her, to another dimension by Immortus. And basically, he had somehow or another enraptured her. He used whatever powers he had over her while he had her in this sort of pocket dimension where in Limbo, where the child that she's carrying is Immortus. So technically, he had sex with his mother to recreate himself and grow, and it is preposterously one of the dumbest stories I've ever read. And especially for issue number 200, where you expect some massive blowout, it was pretty underwhelming. As a matter of fact, it wasn't just underwhelming, it was preposterously stupid. And Chris Claremont came back eventually to totally retro the shit out of this comic. What I really do love is that they retroactively, in this issue, which is one of the first appearances of Rogue, we're going back in the days when comics didn't even cost nothing. The very first thing we see in this book is someone being thrown off of like the bridge, the Golden Gate in San Francisco, and she's saved by Spider-Woman. It's Carol Danvers. She has amnesia. She doesn't know who she is. She doesn't know what's happened to her. And she's had all of her power basically taken off of her. All of this, Kree superpower where she flight, super strength, endurance, gone. And we see that Rogue, working for the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, has basically sapped her power. And Rogue, if she absorbs someone's power, but she makes contact for too long, permanently gets their power, their memories, and this is what happens. So this explains why Rogue has super strength and flight and endurance and invulnerability, because she had absorbed Carol Danvers' Miss Marvel powers, and she then uses them to basically beat the shit out of Captain America. And the Brotherhood are pretty much taking down the Avengers. They do win the day in the end. But the epilogue to this story of how Carol Danvers basically reacts to the Avengers and her treatment, and how they basically pretty much ignored her. She's very bitter about what had happened to her and the Avengers' response to it. How they pretty much didn't care. They didn't really sort of show any empathy. They just moved on with their lives, and she was just almost discarded. I really, 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 really thought that was a powerful, like a slap in the face to the Avengers after this adventure, and it was a very powerful slap at the editorial people for even writing such crazy material such as this. It is a terrible treatment of a character. It's one of the things that I know they're not even going to go anywhere near if they do a Captain Marvel movie. And it was a long time before Carol Danvers even bothered to show up at the mansion, much less want to join the Avengers again. What do you guys think? Are there crazy comics out there that you've read? If there's anything you like or anything that you think is an actual crazy-ass comic that you think we should talk about, hit me up in the comments below. If you like the video, give me a comment, subscribe to the channel. See you later, everybody. Once again, thanks for coming into the channel. I'm Brian. Till next time, be good to each other.